So LightCuts allows you to polish your lighting and shot composition per camera, meaning you simply have to enable it and it will generate in real time one collection per camera, and anything you put in that collection will be visible only to that camera. And it's real time, so you can scroll on the timeline, you can select another camera. Wherever your active camera is, its associated collection will be the only one that's visible. Of course, you can put lights and objects that are visible to all cameras in any collection you want, but these objects, they'll be visible only to the camera with the same name. And you can rename cameras, duplicate cameras. You will see that the associated collection is created instantly, and you can simply add new markers here in the add-on, meaning this camera will become the active one at that frame in the timeline. And then you just have to drag and drop any object or light you want in that new collection, and it will be the lights that are only visible to that camera. And so you can see it allows you to control exactly the lighting and the cinematography of each of your shots without having any setup to do, any keyframe, or you only click on enable LightCuts, and then you can do whatever you want on your shots. And that's basically essential to filmmaking, because that's what cinematography is all about, designing your picture from the point of view of the camera and making it as readable as possible. So using rim lights to clearly define the volumes and the silhouette of the important elements. And of course, this is an extreme example with widely different lighting on each shot. But if you watch any movie, you will realize that sometimes between two shots, the lighting is actually extremely different if you look at it from outside the camera, from the world space, basically. But from the point of view of the viewer, it just feels natural because the image reads well, even if the light basically teleports from one shot to the next, because that's actually how films are made. They place the light just for any given shot camera, so they can have control over the read of everything. And yet to avoid having lights that are totally facing the characters and flattening the image, for example, and be able to tweak and polish the lighting without affecting the other shots, basically. So let's look at a simpler example with just 3 cameras. And just to show how much control you have with this system, you can totally change the mood and the composition if you need to. And it's as simple as drag and dropping objects or creating them directly in the collection that you need. So let's see how to set up this from the default file. So just placing a few cubes and creating 3 cameras, for example, just by duplicating. You don't have to, but it's good to rename them so you always know which is which. And this is useful obviously for short films, but it can also be useful for architecture or even concept art projects where you just want to optimize a bit different point of view in your scene, having more details in some cameras, or just tweak the lighting. So you can simply enable LightCuts, and you see that instantly you get a collection per camera. And if you keep adding more cameras, you can see that the collection gets updated and created instantly. You can rename them, and everything is real time. And so the most practical are camera markers. So you can just go in the timeline where you want to cut and click on the new camera that you want from that point onward. That way you just have to scroll in the timeline and you can place your different cameras without having to select them or anything. You can even press spacebar and the timeline will just play back and cameras will swap and the collections will also update. So just adding a few lights for the example, but any object, light, or even empty, and so collection instance also are supported. They will be visible only to the associated camera, and anything outside the LightCuts collection will be simply visible to all cameras all the time, just normally. And of course it works in EV and cycles. And here you can see in the viewport that it's basically real time. Any light or any object that's associated with any camera is just visible only when that camera is active. So then if you want to have some object or camera visible to more than one camera but not the others, you can very simply create a collection, and I will put a red cube in this collection, and I will simply create a collection instance. If you right click on any collection in Blender, that's extremely practical. You can do an instance to scene. It means it creates a copy, like a duplicate instance of everything that's inside this collection. So objects, modifiers on the objects, lights, anything. So I just drop this collection instance into another camera lighting collection. And now I have this red cube in 2 cameras out of the 4 cameras. So in basically 2 actions, I can synchronize any object or light in any arbitrary number of cameras, excluding the other cameras where I don't put this instance collection in their LightCuts collection. And then the last feature is the bake. That's only if you need to share the scene in a render farm or something that doesn't have the add-on, and so that doesn't update automatically at render time or in the viewports, all these visibilities. You just click on bake and instantly the add-on deactivates, but all the visibility are keyframed and everything is working basically just the same, but without the add-on, so on any other computer in factory mode without any add-on. And if you just click unbake, it reactivates the add-on and remove the keyframe, and you're back in real time basically. So yeah, don't hesitate if you have any question on the Discord or via the messages on SuperHive. Thanks.